Hello everyone, my name is Vitor, and in this video I'm going to show you how can you create this little dark mode right here in the right corner. So yeah, whenever we click this button, this toggle, you can see that we are using the dark mode. So if you want to learn how to do that, just subscribe for more videos and let's get started. Alright guys, so let's get started. I just created this project with Create React App, and I'm using style components, and I'll be using TypeScript for this project. So we have this global.css, which have this style. You can copy if you want to follow along. And we have this app component right here with the class name. We have this header component, this main component, and this footer component. And I don't want to waste time creating this header and this footer and all these cards, these three cards, because this is really simple. It's just HTML and CSS, and you probably know how to do that. So I just show you the code, and you can copy if you will. So I created this source folder, and it has this components folder, and we have this card component. Wait. All right, you can copy that, and we have this footer. You can copy that as well. We have this header, you can copy that, and we have this main. All right, and we have the styles for this card. All right, we have the styles for the footer, for the header, and for the main. All right, so now that you have the code, we can create the dark theme, the toggle. So we can use that in a lot of parts of our application. So let's create a folder called UI. I like to use this folder to put everything that I'm gonna reuse in my project, like a button, like a form, a pop-up, and in this case a toggle. So let's create that. Wait, create toggle.tsx. Let's return something. This is going to be a div for the moment, and we need to export default. All right, so now we can create the styles for this toggle. Toggle.style.ts. Let's import style from style components. Style toggle is equal to style dot. It's going to be a div, and we are using backtips right now. Make sure you export that. Export default. I'm not export as a default. Let's just export that, because we might want to use another component in this file. We'll just export. All right, so let's set a widget. It's going to be 70 pixels, and it's going to be a height of, I don't know, 30 pixels. It's going to be a border of 1 pixel, solid CCC. Alright, so let's copy that and use in our toggle. Let's import that from the UI. Wait, from styles toggle. Alright, so now we need to make sure to use that toggle in this header. So let's copy that. Let's import toggle and just paste down here. Alright, so now we need to, let's give it a border radius. border radius of, I don't know, 30 pixels. All right. And now we need to create that circle, that toggle, which is going to be inside of this little toggle. You can create in the same file, so let's do that. Like export const style toggle btn, right? Because it is clickable. It is clickable. Style dot. I want this to be a button. There we go. And let's set the background to be white. The width is going to be, I don't know, 30 pixels. Let's see how it's going to be here. And let's set the height to be 100%. And since we are using this inside of this, we can just set the position, this style toggle to be position relative, and this btn we can set the position to be absolute. All right, now we can import that in this toggle component. Import, wait, just do this. All right, so now we can put inside of it. There we go, we have our button. So but I don't want this to be square, so let's make sure we have defined some border none, and border radius, it can be 50%, and let's set the height to 90%, and the width can be, I don't know, 25. Well, it looks better. So now we can just set display to be flex, justify content center, and align items center. All right, so I want this button to start in this left side, and since we are using positions, we can set this little circle to be left. We can define the left to be 3 pixels. Let's reload the page. All right, so how are we gonna switch that toggle? And now we can just test something. Let's do this. Transform, translate x 200 pixels, like this. 200 is too much. Let's see, 150 pixels. All right. So now whenever we click this button, we want to use this transform. So we're going to be using a class name to do that. So let's create a class name. Is active. So whenever we click that button, we're going to activate this class name using context API and some Boolean variable. And all right, we can set a transition to be 0.5 seconds. All right, now we have our toggle, and I don't know, I want to change this background color. I want this to be yellow, so let's change that background. I want this to be yellow, so let's change that background color. Background, let's set to RGB, and there you go. Let's give it a border. Let's give it a border of 1 pixel, solid white, and let's change the style toggle to be background. I want it to be black. Well, background is going to be it's going to be black. Let's remove this. Let's remove this border right here. All right, that looks better. So we now can set the cursor to be pointer, So whenever we hover over this btn, you can see the little hand right here, right? Whenever we hover, you can see that hand, and that's beautiful for using experience. All right, so how do we do that? How can we make this work? First of all, this is a component that we can use in a lot of parts of our applications, a lot of different pages. So you might want to use Context API because we can use this in a lot of pages. So let's just do that. Let's create context folder. Context. I'm gonna call it Toggle context.tsx. So, all right, so let's export a constant called Toggle context react dot. Let's create our context, and since we are using TypeScript, we can use interface. Let's do that. Interface, and we basically want the value in the function to change the value. So whenever we click that button, we want to change the value to false or true. So let's call it toggle and is active value, and it's going to be a string, right? It's going to be a string, and is active function. It's going to be a void, return void. This means that we are not returning anything, right? It's just a function that is going to do something, but it doesn't return anything. So we can use that. We can use an empty object and use that interface to create our context. And there we go. Let's import React as well from React. And now we can create our context provider. So let's create that function Toggle context provider, and we can export default. Let's return something for the moment, just a div, and we also need to import use state hook. Let's import that hook from React as well. Use state, and let's create our state. Wait. Const square brackets is equal to use state, and this is going to start with false, right? False. I'm gonna call it is active and set is active. All right, so now we can create our function or values. Const values, I'm gonna call this activate toggle or activate dark mode. All right, that's good for now. So we need to use these values as a pointer. So whenever we call this value, we need to point to this activate dark mode function. So let's do that. And now this is active value is also a pointer to this is active. So you can use that as well. And now, since we are using context, we need to return our context right here. But whenever we call this activate function, we're gonna set the state, and we can simply do this. We can use the previous value which is going to be false, and just use this operator. And now we need to return our toggle context. Let's do that. Toggle context dot provider. So we want to use that children property. So because we usually use this provider as a wrapper, so we need that children right here. So alright, but first we need to set the values. So just write this. Something's wrong. Alright, I know why this is wrong. Wait, something's wrong. Alright, this is not a self-closing component. We need to use the slash in the beginning of this component. So alright, so now we need to specify which properties, which props we have in this provider. So let's create another interface called iProps. We're just going to use children, so which is going to be a React node, and make sure that you import that from React as well. Copy that and use right here in the toggle context provider props, and paste that. But something is wrong. What is this? Alright, I set this to be a string, but it has to be a boolean, of course. Alright, so now we need to import this provider in our app component in the indexed file, index.tsx. So let's import that. Import toggle. Let me recall the name. Toggle context provider from components context toggle context. There we go. Now you can just wrap this app component. Alright, so now we need to use that. We need to, whenever we click this, we're gonna call that function. So it is in the header, so let's go to the header and do that. So just import use context from React, and import something from context toggle context. Let's import our context and use down here const. Let's use the structuring, use context, just gonna use the value for the moment. Just gonna use the value. It's going to be false. And now, since we are using this toggle component, we need to create a props, so we can change that. So you can use that to add that class name. So go to your toggle component in the UI folder, and let's create some props. Let's create an interface iToggle, and I want to create a class name, right? I want to create a class name which is going to be a string. Alright, props. So now we can just use this class name right here, and this is not the props, right? Since we are using style component, we can use class name, and now we are going to use the props dot class name. So you can use that in a lot of pages, a lot of components in our application. So let's use that class name, and if if this is true, I want to add is active class name, or we just add an empty string. All right, so now, do you remember this class name? So I'm gonna show you again, in case you forgot. So where is it? Where we have the header? It is on the header, right? No, it is on the toggle. All right, so now we have this is active component. So whenever that toggle changes, we're gonna use this class name. So let's do it. Let's import a function as well. Let's import a function. We can use onClick. And we need another property, another prop in this toggle component. So let's create onClick property. It's going to be a function, right? Void. Let's use that. OnClick. Props dot onClick. All right, so now we can use that in our header component. OnClick. So whenever we click this toggle, we're gonna call that function. Let's create an arrow function. All right, I think this is supposed to be working right now. Let's give it a shot. There we go. So whenever we click this button, as you can see, it's working. So now we need to use that boolean to change this header color, this little blue circle right now. We usually use pictures and profile pictures right here. So, but I don't want to use that right now. So we need to import that context again. So let's start with the header because it is easier. So we can add a class name, right? If this is active is true, I'm going to create a class name called dark underscore mode, or we're gonna just add an empty string. All right, so now we can create that in this style header. So let's do that. And I have some colors, so I'm gonna copy that. Gonna copy the black color right here and paste right now. Wait, background. There we go. Let's close these tabs. Too much. And let's see if this is working. We have the transition. Let's add a transition as well. Wait, transition is going to be 0.5 seconds. There you go. So whenever we click this button, and now we can use that in a lot of components. We can also use that in the footer. So let's do it. Let's do that again. Need to import use context and import our context from all right, const from use context. In this case, we are just interested in the value. Class name. Wait. We don't need a arrow function right here. If active is true, we're gonna add the dark underscore underscore mode. Else, we're just gonna add an empty string. So let's create the dark mode in this footer component. Transition 0.5 seconds, and we need the color. So it is this color that we are using for the dark mode. So let's copy that and paste down here. Background. Alright, so now we just need to use that on the card. So let's see. There we go. So we can do the same thing for these cards. So let's do that. It is this empty div that we are using. So let's import again. Use context. Use context is a really important feature from React because it allows us to use this state in a lot of parts of our application. Let's import something from context toggle. Right, so if active is true, we're gonna add dark underscore underscore mode, or just an empty string. So let's create the class name in this card, style card right here, and it is this div that we are going to be using. So let's create transition 0.5 seconds, and we also want this background right here. Alright, this is supposed to be working. There we go. So now we have our toggle, our dark mode. This is beautiful. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is a really helpful feature, helpful project that you can use in all of your applications. You can add this dark mode, and leave a thumbs up in this video if you like, leave a comment, and I see you in the next video.